What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work there, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sackheads Radio. Sackheads Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
And welcome to Sackheads Radio Show. It is the 8th of October, 2014. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening.
You're welcome.
Not you, really. I'm not thanking you.
Why
we go
not?
through this all the time.
I don't know who you're talking to. There's nobody else here but me.
We do have a great show for you this evening. So much to talk about. Running down the list. You know what? It's on our Twitter, as a matter of fact. It's on our Twitter, so if you want to see it, it's Twitter at Sackheads. A couple things at shrmedia.com. There's a poll. I believe it's on the bottom of the first page. It might be on the second one now. If you have a chance, it's about Ebola in America. We're going to keep it open for a few weeks. So run to shrmedia.com. If you listen and just go down and click and vote on the polls. A couple new articles out there. There's also Jersey Joe's show from last week. And guess who I had a sighting from?
Sacco.
This week. No. Rooster.
What?
Yeah. Rooster himself.
Did he finally come back?
Rumor has it he may. He just might be back this Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast.
Is he listening
live?
Right
I don't know if he's listening. It's hard. I don't know. He might be, but I can't say.
What happened? Did he forget to change the batteries in his hearing aid?
Well, no.
So he wasn't able to...
There's some confusion, and there may be a story written about it later this week. Apparently, you know how we have the SHR code word?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, the one we're not supposed to say it.
Right.
You did.
Well, allegedly. So here's what happened. We have a code word for all of our SHR media members.
Mm-hmm.
And if we utter that code word, could be a time of invasion.
In a show.
In a show.
Yes.
Invasion, insurrection, it could be natural disaster.
Ebola
breakout, whatever.
Zombie apocalypse.
We have that code word. And if I mutter it.
Or any of us.
Or any of us here in the studios. If it's muttered live in the show, that means all hell's breaking loose. And we're in trouble.
Right.
So apparently.
And not a re-election of Obama trouble.
No. Like
it's
real
be something
trouble.
like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and we're going to have to change the code word, so I'll say what it is right now. The code word was duodenum. We're changing it. Apparently, a couple months ago, I said it.
Yeah, well, I think you did. Either that, I know we said jejunum.
It could be that too.
So he might have
close.
Yeah.
At his age, hearing's tough.
At his age, his hearing, I think maybe he mistook that.
This activated Rooster to put Operation SHR Safety into effect, Plan 102.1.
No. It was .2.
Was it .2?
Well, because of where he went.
Either way, so Rooster went up into the hills where we have our rally point, and he may actually have been up there for a while. He was waiting for us to show up. He thought all hell was breaking loose.
Didn't see any planes.
Nothing.
Thought it was done.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, and he really thought it was end of days. So it wasn't until. Well, I think it was Charlie Sheen came by and asked him if he
I'm not sure.
I've heard.
Yeah.
Asked him if he had any blow. And, of course, Rooster said no, but how'd you get here? And he said, what do you mean? I always walk out in the middle of the woods looking for blow. And then proceeded to tell him that everything's fine. So Rooster came out of the hills. This is my fault. I feel semi-responsible for this.
Well, no, our fault.
Right.
Because we don't know what words set him off.
Right.
I mean, I don't remember anybody saying... I remember jejunum, but that could be confused for the other word. So I just...
Either way, rumor has it that now that he had to go to re-education camp and get reintegrated into life.
He did. So his show may actually have a liberal slant now.
Right.
We don't know.
But no, it was our re-education camp.
Okay, perfect.
But he will be back, from what I hear, back at the controls this weekend, this Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific.
And we're excited to have him back.
And I want
missed him.
We missed Rooster. We always miss Rooster. We love Rooster to death. I also want to throw out...
Don't say that, because he's been missing. Why would you say we loved Rooster to death? What if they're working something? Now we're going to have people knocking on the door.
Now it's all coming back onto us.
Yeah. Why would you say that? What is wrong with you?
So I also want to give a congrats to Jersey Joe. He had his first live show this past Sunday night and went really well. If you listen to it, it's in our Spreaker feed right now. If you don't follow us on Spreaker, you got to go do that. It takes 2 seconds to log in. You can follow us, get everyone who's on our show and on our network. But Jersey Joe did a great job. Reaver Common Sense was his first show Sunday night, and he's going to do another one this week.
Look, if you don't follow us on Spreaker, now we've done some independent research on this, and it hasn't been confirmed yet, but you may in fact be a communist. I mean, we don't know, but the research is kind of inconclusive, but it's trending that direction, I think.
Ken was quick to point out that I would have no problem sitting in for Rooster and I wouldn't cancel at the last minute. You know, everything's about race with him. He's assuming Rooster is white.
He is assuming Rooster is
That's
white.
a big assumption.
Huge assumption.
Right. You don't know that to be true.
Has he seen genealogy?
I'm just saying, Jersey Joe threw us, our Spreaker feed is in the chat room. Jersey Joe, if you're feeling froggy, can you mind linking the two polls in there as well? That'd be awesome. It's always good to have help. You know what I mean?
And good help.
Good help. It's always nice to have good help.
Are you saying that about Ken?
Yeah, Ken is great help. I have never had...
Ken is great help when he's wearing the maid outfit and the thigh highs. Remember he sent us that picture? We promised we wouldn't put it up online. I may still have it somewhere.
Oh, man.
Remember he must have been hammered.
Yeah, totally.
I was like, you look like you're smuggling plums in there. Right. What is that?
It actually looks like he tried to put on one of those really long, thin balloons. Right? But the long way.
But not inflated.
But not inflated. Jersey Joe is concerned that he's not the newbie anymore. Oh, no, son, you're still the rookie.
Hey, Rook, why don't you fire something up?
Come on, meat. He did do an awesome show. It was all about Ebola and Terravirus this week. And coming up this week, he's got a whole show on guns, so that's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to that on Sunday night. Ken says I have to carry his bags. He obviously doesn't understand how that role works, so just reverse that, Ken.
Maybe he wasn't talking about luggage.
Ooh, Mrs. Ken will not be pleased.
Maybe she will. You don't know.
So going down the list tonight, we're going to have a fun discussion.
No, it's not going to be fun.
No, it is.
No.
All right.
It's kind of... The first segment might piss you off.
The first segment pissed me off.
Yeah.
Not doing the segment. You know what I mean. But
I know what you mean. The topic.
The topic.
I remember we got into a yelling match, but we weren't yelling at each other.
We were yelling about,
in general.
Right.
It was kind of insane.
So, yeah.
Look,
let's say you go to a college. What do you think?
Well, yeah. Okay, so I went to a college. Where are you going with this? I'm feeling a little uncomfortable.
And let's say you graduate in college. You.
Okay. Me, personally. And
you
like
personally.
a class of like 20 people. So huge.
Yes.
Huge class, right? Okay. I'm tracking.
All 20 of you.
Right.
And you had you could have got a bunch of people to do your commencement speech.
Okay. I could have.
Politicians, war heroes.
Right.
Maybe somebody that worked on
people.
cancer.
I want people that are going to inspire my students.
Something that actually brings value, something that brings enlightenment.
Correct.
Intelligence, intellect, something amazing.
Yes. What's the problem?
Or if you're Goddard College in Vermont, you got a cop killer.
Or then there's that.
What in the hell? And folks,
go ahead.
What would inspire anybody for college commencement? You have this group of young people ready to go out into the world and perhaps change the world and move forth and move beyond, and really get out there and make a difference. And you're going to bring in front of them the likes of Mumia.
Go ahead, pronounce it.
Abu-Jamal.
Just throw it out there.
And now I'm going to get called racist.
So, and for those of you who may not know who, he's a convicted cop killer. And Mumia Abu-Jamal gave the commencement speech. It was pre-recorded because he is, in fact, in prison for life after his death sentence got commuted because of an erroneous jury instruction by a judge. And he gave a commencement speech for the 20 bachelor degree earning students from Goddard College. So, if you don't know about the case, let me tell you about it. In December 9th, 1981, in Philadelphia, police officer Daniel Faulkner was in the area of 13th and Locust Streets, and he made a traffic stop. And he made a traffic stop on an individual by the name of William Cook. William Cook is Mumia Abu-Jamal's brother. Mumia Abu-Jamal, runs across the street. Now, let me tell you a little bit about his background. He's a Black Panther Party member, or he was, from a very young age. He was being watched at one point by the FBI because of his involvement with the Black Panther Party and so forth. He had prior quotes, according to a couple articles I read, quoting Mao Zedong, where he basically said power comes from the barrel of a gun. Anyways, I have a hard time calling him Mr. Abu-Jamal, but
no, just call him a-hole.
So Mumia
a-hole Jamal.
He's driving a taxi cab, and he's supplementing his income a couple nights a week driving cab, and he sees across the street that his brother is stopped by Officer Faulkner. Mumia runs across the street and shoots the officer 5 times. The officer returns fire, hits Mumia Abu-Jamal one time. They go down. Officers show up on scene, and Mumia has a shoulder holster on, a pistol or a revolver with 5 expended cartridges into it, lying next to his body. There were 3 witnesses, one of which was a prostitute. So I'm sure they love cops, right? That all positively identified Mumia Jamal as the shooter who witnessed the event. One witness said that they saw Mumia Abu-Jamal run towards the officer, but they turned away and did not actually see the shots being fired. So the revolver was a .38 caliber Charter Arms revolver. It was owned by Mumia Abu-Jamal. So you have that with the 5 spent cartridges, the shoulder rig, the witness statements. He was subsequently convicted of murdering Officer Faulkner. Mm-hmm. He goes to prison. He gets the death penalty in the penalty phase. His conviction goes up. The death penalty was overturned and commuted to life in sentence based upon an erroneous jury instruction that the jury received. His conviction was not overturned. His conviction has been upheld the entire time. Defense had 9 character witnesses come in basically saying, oh, he's a great guy. And one of the witnesses gave the running man defense because one witness said, oh, I saw a man running from the scene, and that must have been the shooter. Well, first of all, if there's gunshots, there are going to be people running away from the scene.
Well, yeah, everybody would be.
Doesn't mean they're the shooter.
Most normal people, when gunfire rings out, just the average everyday Joe citizen runs away.
Right.
Is that unreasonable to think?
No, it's not.
Sacco, would you run away if somebody walked in here right now and started shooting? And I mean this seriously.
This is the wrong studio because there's a lot of guns
right,
there.
I understand that, but
it depends. If I'm defending somebody,
no, but
okay.
Right. But that's a reasonable response.
It's for people to run.
Right.
So this individual, and this guy has had, I don't know what it is, there have been celebrities that have, there's like a whole free Mumia campaign. I don't get it, but pretty compelling evidence in the case. And this is the individual you task to give this commencement speech.
Right.
The widow was very upset, obviously.
And rightfully so.
And rightfully so. She thought it was unconscionable, having to basically, almost relive this again, have this guy who's, a hero because he got a degree in prison, or he's a hero because he was an activist for the Black Panther Party? I don't get it. Why do you have a convicted cop killer speaking to a college? And then I looked up the college, and first of all, it had like 1.3 stars rating on Google,
it's a big one.
so that's great.
It's a big one.
And I pulled up on Goddard, the About Goddard, their mission of Goddard College, their page, their educational philosophy, values, and history. And I want to read one part because it's kind of telling. And this is from Goddard College's webpage. It says, "We recognize that teaching and learning are fully realized when they include a wide range of people, cultures, experiences, abilities, and fields of knowledge." That sounds nice. "Understanding that access to resources and social and political power are not equally distributed."
Wait a minute.
"We offer the means to explore and articulate a wide range of personal and cultural understandings of well-being and justice, and to take action to create a more just world."
I love more just world.
Let me see. Access to resources and social and political power are not equally distributed. Where have we heard this before?
Oh, boy.
Oh, I remember. Writings of Karl Marx.
Right.
Anyways, I don't know why
but you digress.
I thought of that. I digress. So this is a very, very self-described progressive institution that had this convicted cop killer give this commencement speech. And I fault the college. I mean, I fault
a lot of people.
I fault Abu-Jamal, obviously, for the crime he committed, but I fault the college for bringing this individual in.
Maybe it's because he and Joe logged this, linked this out in the chat room. Maybe it's because he's a syndicated radio show host, because he has his own little radio show. I think it's radioprison.org or something like that, but he's actually got a radio show.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't you?
So that could be one reason. By the way, Ron's throwing up some great pictures in the chat room that you may want to look at some point. It could obviously be because, he's obviously he was misunderstood.
Well, here's what they said. So the college came out in a statement, and they said that, look, we thought that he is an award-winning journalist who chronicles the human condition.
He's not. No.
This is what Goddard College called him.
No, he's not a journalist. He's a prisoner.
No, they called him an award-winning journalist who chronicles the human condition. He took somebody's human condition away. A police officer's.
Yes.
He left a widow, so I guess he did change her human condition.
He changed a lot of human conditions.
Right.
All of his co-workers at the police department.
Took away a son.
All the victims that had to watch that happen, so he changed theirs too. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, one of the hospital workers testified that he said something to the effect of, "I shot the MFer, I hope he dies."
Oh. That's somebody.
That's somebody that you would want to give a commencement speech.
Folks.
So now there is a little bit of not backlash on this, but Pennsylvania governor and the legislature Pennsylvania's governor called Vermont's college. He called it unconscionable. Hey, he thought it was absolutely ridiculous. And there's a legislative committee that actually advanced a victim rights bill that is designed specifically to prevent this type of thing from happening.
Good.
And so at first I said, yeah, that's great. And what the bill says is it came out of the House committee on Monday, and it would allow a victim or the family of a victim to go to court and get an injunction against, and here's the quote, "conduct which perpetuates the continuing effects of the crime on the victim."
I think that's
so that somebody doesn't get victimized. And now,
let me take this a step further, though. Before we start doing legislation, all the other stuff. He's a convicted murderer in prison.
Right.
The warden should have turned around and said, no.
Yeah, no, you can't record this speech.
No. You're also not doing a radio show from prison.
Right.
You're also not making any sort of money or speeches. I don't even care if you get a college degree. I hate to say it, folks, and I know there are people out there, oh, rehabilitation, blah, 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 blah. I think if you're on death row or you're doing life in prison with no chance of parole, you should be able to sit in a room for 23 hours a day. The 24th hour, go out into a small cage where you get some sunlight. Maybe it'll rain on you.
Like we do for Sacco.
Exactly. Right? Sacco gets treated worse than this cop killer does. It's ridiculous, Sacco. I'm sorry.
It is ridiculous. But
Sacco's going to end up doing a speech at a college now.
The ACLU, the ACLU came out and basically said that, hey, this measure is too broad.
Send more rope.
And they're basically calling it a First Amendment issue.
They use the word broad
for Mumia.
Whew.
Can they do that?
I don't think they can use
they're
the
the
broad.
ACLU.
They can say whatever they want.
They can say that. Some broad over there said it, so it's okay. So at first I didn't know what I thought about the legislation. I mean, I like the idea of the legislation. Right. But in this case, I blame the college.
I do as well.
I fault those that raise a cop killer up in our society. And look, this is the same way a la what's Mr. blew up Mr. Weather Underground.
Oh, David.
Not Axelrod.
No, not Axel. He was the teacher at the college. Yeah,
douchebag. I think that was his name, right?
Someone's gonna throw it. Ayers.
Yeah,
Bill Ayers.
Douchebag. I knew it started with a douchebag in there somewhere. So, these liberal colleges are bringing up these violent, murderous, because I know there was a bombing involved with the Weather Underground and so forth. People,
police station,
and they raise them up to be heroes. What are we teaching the next generation?
Right, that it's okay. Listen, we already have a culture that says it's okay to go to prison. Yeah. We already have a culture there's a culture in this country that says it's cool, or you get street cred or whatever if you go to prison. Now they're telling you that if you go to prison, you can be a commencement speaker. Think of other people who speak at commencements. And you're putting this guy in the same category as them.
I just figured it out.
Okay.
So Goddard College also says in their mission statement, we challenge ourselves and each other to embrace uncertainty, experiment, and imagine unexpected outcomes. Well, there you have it. Completely unexpected to have a convicted cop killer give a commencement speech. Certainly is uncertain because he is pretty violent.
Then why don't they have us?
Right.
If they really want to have somebody who's uncertain, why don't they have us? Because I'll tell those kids some reality. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'll put a little bit of truth in their friggin' ears. I mean, all this does is highlight the fact that, hey, you know what?
But here's the problem: we don't think like they do.
Joe just beat me to the point, and this is where I was going with it. Thanks, Joe, for undercutting me again. No, but right, Condoleezza Rice goes to speak at a college, and the world goes insane.
Yes,
a black woman, former Secretary of State.
Yes,
extremely intelligent.
Yes,
extremely well versed. And we've seen a speech from her live. I've seen other speeches from her. A person that you would want... Stanford professor, possibly the next commissioner of the NFL. Her name's been thrown around a lot when Goodall decides to retire. And you have colleges saying no. People, oh my goodness, no, you can't have her. Oh, she bombed Iraq, blah, blah, blah. They did everything they could.
Well, here's the thing. Right, this individual didn't bomb a poor, helpless, defenseless, indigenous people of Iraq. He killed a cop.
Right,
a white cop who's a big old meanie head, who is an oppressor and who had a gun.
Sounds like my goal on prom night.
It sounds absurd, but
excuse me.
I honestly believe that's where their heads are at. It's backwards. You know, when the British surrendered at Yorktown, they played "The World Turned Upside Down."
Mm-hmm.
I think of that, and I don't know why, but I know why. I think of that when I hear stories like that, how everything is turned upside down right now. Even look at a lot of movies today, right? The good guys are the bad guys.
Yeah. Very much so.
And the bad guys
it's beyond,
are the heroes.
And it's beyond the anti-hero.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's gone straight to bad guys being good guys.
Right. Which is why I like some of the Marvel movies, right? Like Captain America is still Captain America.
Right. Well, you still have ones that... And you know what's funny
is... a lot of newer movies coming out, those lines are blurred. Yes?
Oh. Horribly blurred. You know, I think of some of the movies that came out recently that didn't do as well, that probably should have done better, you know, because of that. You look at the new movie, The Equalizer, which was Denzel Washington. Mm-hmm. They changed it up from what the TV show was in the 80s, because it was an 80s, you know, it was an English guy, English white guy, and now it's a former special operator who's working at a Home Depot in Boston. And it's actually, from what I haven't seen the movie, everything I read about it, it got really good reviews. Essentially, he made a commitment in his life, and bad guys show up, and he decides that he's going to spend his whole life fighting bad guys, the group of bad guys. But that's a feel-good movie. You may not, you know, if you like action, that's one of the better ones that have come out recently from what I've been told. And that does not get the play nearly as much as things like Denzel in Training Day, when he was a horrible cop that was going on the, you know, using this young cop and completely killing people and destroying the system. That was enormous. And movies like The Equalizer or The Punisher, it's another one, don't get as much. And I really think that it's because it's a natural good guy. You know, comic books do good because there's a million nerds sitting in mom's basement waiting for them to come out. So any movie that's a comic book, I go and see it. But I think movies now...
But the comic book, like the Marvel comic book movies, actually have a good guy. There is definite good, there is definite evil, and good typically triumphs over evil.
Right.
Right? You have... Let's look at Pirates of the Caribbean. And I love the Pirates of the Caribbean series. But you have pirates that are glorified
as good guys.
Or you have... television series where pirates are glorified.
Right, a lot of different
ones.
And
the British Navy, we know what we think about them anyways. But they were, you know, they're the villains or they're the bad guy or whatnot. Does it send mixed messages or problematic messages to our youth?
Yes.
The fact that there is this major blurring of lines between good and evil, or good and bad, particularly at a young age.
Right, and right? The long gone are the John Waynes of the world, who always did the right thing. And
the Clint Eastwoods.
The Clint Eastwoods, right. And now they're just doing nothing but making bad guys into good guys. And it's a horrible, and this is another example. This is a prime example of making a bad guy into a good guy.
And I have another example. Madam Secretary, the new series that's coming out, which is weird. Right before
NBC.
Right before the election season, NBC has a series called Madam Secretary about a female Secretary of State.
You think the Democratic machine
that makes
on
difficult
board?
Decisions?
They are already starting her campaign for her. This is a campaign format.
No, it's
because
not. This is a great new show.
They're going to get all the low information voters, the people that don't pay attention. Thank you, Sacco.
Thank you, Sacco.
I get 30 seconds. People that don't pay attention, all that, to watch that show and then go, oh, she must have been great because the woman in the car in the movie, in the TV show is really well.
And it was based on her, so it's got to be great.
Right. It's the same exact person. We are up against the break.
When we come back, Sean's going to be talking to us about Ebola.
Ebola.
In the U.S.
Coming back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, and inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Radio.
And welcome back here to the Sackheads Radio Show. This portion of the program is brought to you by POFUSA.com, Patriot Ordnance Factory. The finest in AR-15 platform rifles, 223-308. You want to talk about a fine shooting gun?
Those are great. I mean, we've shot them. They're excellent weapons. Great workmanship. They have some components in them that are going to make them run smoother, run cleaner, run cooler than other AR platforms. I love it.
And if you're serious about your firearms and you're serious about it working, POFUSA.com. Tell them the Sackheads sent you. Seriously, tell them. Don't even.
Yeah, don't just gloss over it.
Right. You know what? Call them up right now. Send them a message on their website. Follow them at Twitter at POFUSA, and just tell them the Sackheads sent you. Please. Pretty please. I do have another big announcement for the week. Windrock Wealth is going to be providing us a 3-minute update weekly on everything you need to know about the market, the economy, investments, etc. Go to windrockwealth.com. Tell Chris Casey we said hi. If you want to get on board with what you need to do with finances and what the market's doing, one of the great things that he's going to do, not yet. One of the great things that Chris is going to do, and this is why he's just such a gentleman, but he's one of my biggest things is when I talked to him about it, I said, hey, listen, you know what? I listen to market updates all the time, and I have a retirement. You have a retirement. Sako, we all have retirements. We all have to plan for the future. But one of the things that I asked to do is put it in plain speak. When you listen to market updates, you always hear, this, that, percentage points, advances versus decliners, who's going to do that? And try to really, that's great if you live and die by, if you're a stockbroker, you know what all that stuff means. And Chris agreed. And I said, is there any way that, and I hate to say dumb it down, but for me, dumb it down. Can you get it on a level that I can understand?
Right. Put this dollar here.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you're looking for a place to manage your money, check them out. They're really good people. And that's going to be starting this week. They're going to be doing their first economic updates, and it will be weekly. And all of our good friends here at SHR Media, all the great shows, will be able to have that into their program as well. And then we're also going to start posting their podcasts on our podcast as well. So we're looking forward to that, and we love our new partnership with them. Moving right along, Thomas Eric Duncan, the first person in the United States who was diagnosed with Ebola, has died. Now, we got something Sunday.
Didn't he come into the United States?
He did, and I will get to that.
Huh.
But Sunday, Jersey Joe sent me a link from a newspaper in Israel who quoted Reuters as saying that he had already passed away that day. It was after a few hours after he was put in a critical condition. And so Jason Miller, our news hound here, we made a bunch of phone calls. Jason called the White House press room, the CDC Atlanta. I believe he called the CDC Texas. We called the hospital. I dug up the cell phone, the personal cell phone for the spokesperson for the Presbyterian Hospital in Texas, to try to get some sort of confirmation or denial. One of the things that we wanted to do is put out the fact that if he wasn't dead, tell us. But this is a big story and people need to know. We didn't get one word of response from anybody. Nobody. And I let them know what's out there. Like, this is something you may want to know. And
you didn't make just one call, I don't think.
No. We made a slew of phone calls. Yeah. And there was no response. Well, today they announced that he died. I believe it was about 7:31 this morning Central Time. He succumbed. It was essentially through kidney failure at the end of the day, but Ebola in general that shut him down. He's going to be the first death in modern history here. I can't say that there wasn't one that we didn't know about back in the 1700s, 1800s, whatever. But he did die. Subsequently today, one of the responding police officers, the initial responding police officers to the home where he was living, or where he was staying, because he just came over here from Liberia, I believe.
And I think he lied.
I believe he lied as well. Yeah, he said he showed no signs of Ebola. Is now coming down with an illness. It's unknown if it's going to be Ebola. There's some stomach pain, body sore, etc. He doesn't have all the symptoms, but he is in isolation right now. But Ebola is starting to spread, folks. And I had a long conversation. That's part of our poll on shrmedia.com. I had two questions. Do you think the U.S. government is ready to handle Ebola?
No.
And
are you asking me, or this is
just
the poll
people?
Question?
The poll
I
question
apologize.
that I'm trying to get people to go to.
I'm sorry.
On as
the right
we
answer
speak
is no.
right now at shrmedia.com.
I'm sorry. I thought we were giving him answers.
Do you think limiting travel to the U.S. from these countries where Ebola is stricken in East Africa would limit the amount of Ebola cases we have here?
Yes. Was that for me?
That was for you too.
Okay.
Might as well be, right? So
I thought you were talking to me. We usually have this dialogue, but I don't know. Sometimes you ask these rhetorical questions and you don't give me a heads up because I'm drinking my Powerade.
So we're going to run that poll for a
vodka.
few weeks and just see what our listeners think. But one of the things that did happen is we are now screening people as they get off the plane in certain.
Well, we are not.
We are not, but the CDC is in certain airports on the East Coast mostly. And how they're doing it is, I don't know if you've ever seen a HVAC guy in your house and they have that little laser gun that they point to see how cold the air is coming out of your. They're essentially shooting people with that and see what their temperature is. So it's real scientific.
Is that a search?
I think I can pick one up at like, ooh.
I'm just asking. Is that a search?
Yes. It's an invasion of personal privacy.
Right.
But if they're coming in via... Well, and it's funny that we would actually be concerned that those people coming in, but not the southern border, where, if you have 21 days from the time you show your first symptoms to death is the average, I think that you could probably get from East Africa to South America and then up through the southern border, say into Dallas or Texas or something
or
like
California.
That. Or California, or Arizona, New Mexico, whatever. But they're screening at those airports. Because that's that.
Five
airports.
There's 5 airports where they come into. They don't come into any of the other ones. It's 5 airports.
You know what? Ken just had a really good idea. And if I was on the East Coast near any of these 5, I might show up and do that.
I wouldn't want to show up because I don't want to be anywhere near somebody that might have
Of course
Ebola.
They're going to find Noah egg is because I don't care what laser they say they use, and I've looked at a whole bunch of these. Most of their effective ranges are like 2 to 4 feet.
Right.
So they're either that close,
right,
or
don't get coughed on,
or don't get coughed on. And if I was the TSA agent or whoever the immigration worker, and they're going to be like, all right, so how's it going to be? you're going to have this little laser device, and you're going to be standing, and you're going to be taking their temperatures. Here's the tricky part. You're going to be within 2 to 4 feet of people that may have Ebola. I either would immediately hit the eject button, there would just be a hole in the ceiling, and the chair would be flying up at 250 miles an hour. Or I would demand to be in one of those biohazard suits all day.
So now riddle me this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but don't those temperature reader things leave a little laser dot on you somewhere? So could you imagine if there's like an undercover agent or something walking around the airport doing something, and all of a sudden there's a little red dot, right, on their chest or forehead because they don't know if there's a traveler? And then, like, bad things happen to the person pointing that at them. Just a side note.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just an aside.
So we have that going on. You know, the CDC, and Joe linked this in the chat room, the CDC has been forced to admit that Ebola might spread to healthcare workers through coughing and sneezing.
No.
Yes.
No.
If you listen to Joe's show last week about this, it can live for a long time outside the body. It's kind of a scary virus. It really is.
Yeah, it's not as contagious as like smallpox or HIV, but it can live longer outside of the body, which is what makes it
more dangerous.
And
you look, they eventually, like 5 days later, they went to the house that Duncan was staying in, and they did a full hazmat. Yeah, full hazmat cleanup.
What they do? Torch the place?
Yeah,
like go in there with a flamethrower, a la Guadalcanal.
And you know, we do live in a great nation in the sense that we have a couple experimental drugs that could possibly be able to combat it. And no, I don't necessarily think that this disease was created so companies could sell the cure for it. But hey, you know what? Anything's possible. But one of them is based on tobacco, which is kind of weird that the CDC would be interested in anything at all for health purposes that's based in tobacco. But it's funny how...
I'm going to start chewing again.
Dude, it is a riot to me how much we fight the big tobacco companies in this country. And we
can you help us?
them. And now all of a sudden they're like, hey,
you know,
buddy.
The only thing better is if the cure ends up being a combination of oil and tobacco.
Yeah, it's 30 weight and a thing of chew.
Right. You need Copenhagen and 10W. I mean...
It is absolutely insane. But it's a very slow process because...
We need to make a commercial.
I'm writing that down now. Sacco, you think you can get a theme song going for that? No? Why not? Okay.
Thanks, Sacco.
Hi. We're the tobacco giants. You know how much you guys hate us? Funny story.
Who do you have? The Marlboro Man and the
Marlboro Man and the guy who was driving the Exxon Valdez.
Right.
Hey, remember us? Yeah, funny story. You need us now. But the
new research, funny thing, smoking will save your life.
You have to grow. I know, wouldn't that be great if everyone gets Ebola, but I'm on a pack a day, so I'm fine. What's wrong with you idiots? You know, the thing is the tobacco plant can't be. There's a specific strain that has to be grown from seeds, and they have to be individuals. So the plant, they can't genetically make it. The plant has to drop the seed, and then they have to replant the seed. Like it's a long process. So this potential life-saving medicine is a long process, as that ZMapp is as well. We just don't have any in the country right now. It was experimental only. So there's a lot of scared people out there, and there should be. And, you know, I'm nervous. I'm not going to lie. This is the first time I've worried about getting sick. You know,
even over like mad cow disease or the bird flu or
nothing.
H1N1?
Nothing. Because a lot of that stuff, if you got in quick enough, they can save you. This has a 65 to 70% mortality rate.
The problem, and that's in other countries. We don't know what so far the mortality rate here, I think, is 100%. So we're not doing that good. But
great if it's a batting average.
Right. There is no rapid diagnostic test for it right now. And I think
it's a wait and see.
Yeah, that needs to be developed if you want to have effective containment. I think. Look, I'm not a virologist. Is that even a thing?
Yes.
Did I nail that? I'm not one of those. I'm not a doctor. But I do apply common sense. So if there's a doctor out there listening, Ken, I don't know if you can tell me if we're off base on this, but I think a rapid diagnostic test would be paramount in early identification so that we can begin to contain it. Because otherwise, I don't think you can get ahead of it.
No.
What was that Dustin Hoffman movie where they ended up like dropping a nuke on the entire city?
Right. It was like the plague. What was it, 27 days later? I don't even know what it is at this point.
But does the United States have a plan that involves the military?
This brings up a very big, important question.
Martial law on how to contain something like this, where they have orders to shoot people that are trying to escape a containment zone. I don't know. I can picture this.
Outbreak was the movie. Thank you, folks, in the chat room. If you're not in the chat room and you listen on shrmedia.com and you're not in the chat room, shame on you, because you miss out on some great conversations with some brilliant people. But that does start to become the question: is what if this does take off here, and what if? I know we have some of the best.
I bet we do have a contingency plan that has something like that. Why else would FEMA and these other groups need ammunition, vehicles that they're storing up, those sort of things? No, seriously.
I agree with you.
There is something in place. We don't know what it is.
Right.
But there is something.
But it does concern me, more people like Thomas Duncan may be out there that we don't even know got sick. Maybe people got here too late. Maybe they were afraid once they went in, got to America to go to the hospital, or they're hiding out in mom and dad's place, or, what if they're waiting for a fake ID to get in and get health care? Who knows? And that was one of the conversations that I had on Twitter the other night, talking about people coming here and why we need to shut off air travel to America from these countries. Just shut it off. Mm-hmm. And, I was immediately called a white racist, and I was mad because
why? It's not your fault the virus started in Africa.
Exactly.
Right?
Right. And Katie Palvich on CNN had made this comment that it was racist that, people didn't wanted to shut off air travel to East Africa, and there was race involved, and blah, 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 blah. So she said to me, I bet you if this was Australia, England, or Canada, you wouldn't do that. And I said, yeah, I would. I'd shut it off in a second.
Yeah.
And you know what? They would understand. Canada, sorry, Kel, I'd shut the border off in a second.
Yep.
And then the funny part is we were talking about the medicine, so she disagreed and I disagreed, and we went back and forth. But she then admitted that she was from Ontario, Canada, and I said, oh, well, you should be all set because you guys have socialized medicine. I'm sure there's just stacks of this stuff waiting to be treated for you guys.
Right.
No, we were already told that it would be only for healthcare workers and first responders.
Oh.
Wait, so when the government controls... Really? Huh. Really? That's funny how that works out.
Oh, weird.
I thought you guys had the best healthcare system in the world. Well, blah, 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 blah. And it made me laugh because I was just like, you try... First of all I try to say is we need to stop the outbreak. I have no problem sending money over there to try to help the outbreak. I have no problem sending aid. I don't have a problem with that stuff as a country.
I have no problem sending that stuff if it's airdropped in and our troops aren't actually on the ground to bring that home.
If volunteers are over there, doctors or whatever, even if they're military volunteers.
Right. That's fine. You cut your orders to go volunteer, but you're not coming back until you're quarantined and you show no symptoms for X number of days. Right?
I agree.
I would say 30 days.
And I said, I'd go even beyond. I have said I have no problem giving money and aid to help the outbreak over there. It needs to be stopped, but you need to go where it's originating. You need to go where the outbreak is starting. You need to quarantine and isolate anyone that might be involved and might be sick and treat them.
But at this point, it's spread outside of that zone.
Yes.
You need to go to the edges of that zone
and start to work on it.
And now start to move
treat
back
the poor people. I'm not saying just lock them and let them die.
What about the rich people?
All of them. Treat all of them. Treat everybody. And you need to start that way. That's how you deal with an epidemic like this. If it was the bubonic plague or something that already has killed thousands of people...
You said bubonic. That's like bionic boob. I kind of like that.
I'm on it. But you know what I mean? That's how you start containing that. And I was called a racist, and why would you do that to those people? Oh, fine, now you're going to hurt the economy of all of East Africa? And I said to her, for somebody who's a liberal talking to a conservative, and now you're going after me for hurting the economy?
Right.
No, if I was a true, hey, let's make money any way we can, I'd be like, no, let's triple the Let's fly as many people over so our airlines make money. But let's have Delta and United do specific cheap Ebola planes. Like we could turn that into a moneymaker. That's not my point.
Right.
My point is you need to treat this where it is. You need to limit it. And then she started, well, they could go to other places. I know, but 21 days. And it's not the richest country in the world. So it's not like they have thousands of dollars to fly from East Africa to, say, Russia and then transfer and go through Europe and then to America. And their passports are being followed, or they should be being followed. So we'd have a better chance of intercepting. That would be a much better idea than beeping somebody with a laser thermometer in the head as they get off. And here's a little hint, folks. Once they're off in that terminal, it's in America. You have all those American employees there. Even if you isolate the people from that plane.
Everybody on the airplane that was exposed, the people in the airport
have
prior.
You ever seen an international terminal when they're going through immigration? And it's not just that plane, it's all the other planes, all the other people from all the other countries, including Americans coming back,
yes,
that are in that line waiting to go through. I prefer Lonnie Anderson as well, Peckerhead in the chat room. I don't know what they're talking about, but I just saw that. All of them lined up. You now are having a chance of, and everyone in the ventilation system, because it can live outside the body, you've now exposed that many more people that we have to contain in our own country because we failed to act.
Well, we already failed to act over there, right? It is now here. So I think that the way to deal with it is we have to deal with it here first. I mean, yeah, we can simultaneously send folks over, volunteers if they want to go, but they're quarantined before they're coming back into this country.
Yes.
Quarantine and deal with the issue here. And by the way, I do think this is an appropriate use of the federal government. This is one circumstance where I will say, yes, this is the federal government's job. Because one of the things they are tasked to do is to provide for the welfare of the folks. And this certainly would fall under that. We're not talking money welfare here.
Right.
So I could make a straight-faced argument that constitutionally the government has a right or not a right, but the authority and the responsibility to act on this.
Yeah.
Federal government.
Well, because
right?
it is a threat to the entire nation.
No, yeah, obviously, yeah, and to the American people. So you deal with the threat that we have here, quarantine, whatever it is we need to do, fix it here, get it out of here. I think you have to stop the border. I mean, that just seems like such a no-brainer to me, right? Yeah. Stem the flow. Okay, fine, you don't want to stop ISIS from coming in across the southern border, even though we know they have, or 10 people have, or whatever.
It's not fine, though.
No, it's fine. Well, listen, don't worry about that, right? But this is a little different. I mean, I would argue they're both equally important, but this is a big deal. So stop the look. It's not racist,
and there is honestly
we want to protect our own people. How does that make us racist? And the fact that we even have to talk about it to defend this charge is absolutely asinine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's horrible to think that they're going to try to hijack this potential epidemic and outbreak for some sort of weird social justice thing. There's people out there saying Duncan didn't get the Z-map because he's black, all this other stuff.
Geez.
Folks, here's a little hint. They wanted him, whether you agree or not, they wanted him to get better because they wanted that strain to go away.
You know what? You know why the White House or this administration will not close the borders to that?
Because it's racist.
No, I think that's a BS excuse they're throwing out there to kind of get some of the argument off their back, take the heat off the back, that whole redirection thing. I think they won't do it because Obama considers himself a citizen of the world first and the interests of the American people as secondary to that. So if he can bring people or allow people to come into the United States because we have perceived better health care here or better health care here and they have a better chance of surviving, then as a citizen of the world, he's going to allow them to do so at the expense of Americans because America's interests are secondary. I really believe that.
And it's almost
and you look at this administration and what they've done and how they act in the UN and the things they pass, and that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, no, it's a public image thing. We all know how important he wants to look and how great he wants to look. It's sad, folks. And it's only a matter of time. And listen, we talk on this show a lot of times like, what would happen if things went south in this country and what could lead to uprising and all the problems that we have. And can you imagine if Ebola is the one that led to the riots because we did not deal with it? Again, as a country, not we, the sackheads. We've dealt with it. We've let our opinions be known. Everyone at SHR Media has let their opinions be known. But imagine if this outbreak and epidemic gets so bad that people will now start rushing hospitals, people maybe demanding treatment violently. You'll have, if certain medicine isn't making it to certain states in enough time that they don't have a lot of. But that's not getting pushed out there, and that's the amazing part. ZMapp, the tobacco drug, there's hardly any of it that's ready to go. But they don't tell you that ahead of time. They're not giving you the information. They're not being honest. Now, the epidemic gets bad, and all of a sudden you have poorer neighborhoods going to the hospital demanding treatment, and they say, we don't have the drugs. It's going to now be a race reason.
Right.
People will find a way.
Oh, you're giving it to the 1%.
Right.
You're giving it to the rich.
Exactly.
You're giving it to the white man.
Oh,
you're
yeah, it's a
whatever.
socioeconomic thing. I understand now. But and you could have that from on a bunch of different levels. So it's something that we need to look at as a country and realize that this needs to be dealt with. The potential.
I have an idea.
Go ahead.
We repeal all taxes on tobacco products.
Let's help out the tobacco companies.
Right? As a matter of fact, let's give a subsidy to people that want to purchase tobacco products.
I would love that.
I know you would. What do you think?
I think it's a good idea. You know, we have a lot of propositions coming up.
That was a very liberal point of view for me to take, by the way.
Great liberal point of view.
I want a high five.
Everyone give Clint a high five, please.
Thank you.
Are we going to talk about...
They couldn't see that, but that was pretty good.
Thank you, Sacco. Are we going to talk about Prop 2A.1?
Not yet.
Okay, we will, though. All right, we're up against a break. When we come back...
Terror Block.
It's the Terror Block. It's the 30 Minutes of Terror, brought to you by the Sackheads Radio Show.
Radio.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Radio.
Welcome back, Sackheads Radio Show. I'm Sackhead Clint. Sitting across from me is the wonderful, illustrious, beautiful, delicious Sackhead Sean.
Yummy.
No, Sacco. I didn't say hairy.
I'm pretty hairy.
Not like Sacco.
Dude.
Our little Chewbacca.
Again, I have gotten so many people. I've gotten hate mail, Sacco, about how we treat you on the show. And it makes me laugh.
If they only knew the real power.
I know. Sacco's in charge.
Right. Sacco runs everything. Like, Sacco could flip a button and walk out of this room.
And we'd be done.
And we'd be staring at each other, drooling, and not have any idea where to go. Like, we could talk to each other, but nothing would happen.
Oh, man.
And that's what makes our jokes that much funnier to us.
It's satire, people. It's satire. Now get back in the cage, Sacco.
Back in the cage.
Hey.
So campus reform is a Harvard college newspaper or a campus newspaper kind of news agency. You can check them out, campusreform.org, and came across this story. There was an individual that went out and asked students at the Harvard University and basically asked them this question: who is a bigger threat to world peace?
First of all, it's Harvard.
Harvard. Who's a bigger threat to world peace, ISIS or America? And what the response is, we have the clip. Sacco, can you
roll it?
Roll it, because I have no idea what I'm doing.
We're at Harvard University talking with students, asking them, what is a greater threat to world peace, ISIS or America? What is a bigger threat to world peace, America or ISIS?
To world peace? Well, America.
In many ways, I have to think it's America, because America's making decisions that are much more likely to affect the world.
What is a greater threat to world peace, America or ISIS?
I think American imperialism and our protection of oil interests in the Middle East are destabilizing the region and allowing groups like ISIS to gain power.
As a Western civilization, we're to blame for a lot of the problems that we're facing now. I don't think anyone would argue that we didn't create the problem of ISIS ourselves.
I'd argue that. I'd argue that.
The amount of spending that America has on causes of potential destruction in the world is really outlandish. We've been learning about this recently, how much America spends on defense mechanisms alone. And it's really quite astounding compared to any other country in the world, really.
I just had an interesting conversation last night with a couple of my neighbors in that they can see how the ideology of ISIS might appeal to people in the Middle East who aren't familiar with how we think over here as Americans. They have a skewed view of us, just as a lot of Americans have a skewed view of them.
We have a skewed view. Cutting people's heads off is bad. We have a skewed view of them. They cut people's heads off. That's bad.
First of all, Harvard's supposed to be one of the highest level of education that you can get in the country. And these idiots, and I can tell you, I actually worked at Harvard when I was 18. And there are that many stupid people that go to school there. It has turned into a completely liberal mindset building machine. And it's horrible. Horrible.
So there's a few things in this segment, and let's kind of take them. As a Western civilization, we're to blame for a lot of the problems that we're facing now. I don't think anyone would argue that we didn't create the problem of ISIS ourselves. I would argue that. I would argue that we created the problem of ISIS. Did our failure to act perhaps help the problem worsen? Perhaps. But we certainly did not create what is known as ISIS or ISIL. Defense spending. We spend more. We're just learning about this now. We spend more on potential destruction in the world than anybody else. Yes, do you know why? Because we have to police the rest of the world in order to stabilize the rest of the world. Because nobody else will do it.
That's right.
We could pull out. Yes, we could absolutely pull out. We can shut down our defense spending a lot. We could bring everything back home. And what would happen to the rest of the world? Do you think the problem of ISIS would get better or worse? These airstrikes certainly would not be happening.
Right.
Right? And
You
we
may
don't,
not
we
have
don't
a
have boots
coalition
on the
of-
ground yet.
I mean, I hate to say it, we kind of shamed some of the coalition countries into it. So maybe that wouldn't have happened because our political pressure that we actually, for the first time in 6 years, we had some sort of good foreign policy political pressure to deal with the problem that we should have dealt with a year and a half ago.
It was still weak. It's all just airstrikes and crap.
No, I understand that, but it was the most powerful that's come out.
Yeah. And so yes, we do spend more because we are taking care of a large portion of the world.
Right.
Where are our forces that are defending certain countries? South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Where else? Japan.
Yeah.
Germany.
To a point. We're not really defending it. We're just there.
Well, we were in the Middle East.
Right. We pulled all the way out of there for the most part.
Right.
Except for
UN
Afghanistan.
peacekeeping forces.
Where's the UN in all this?
Huh.
Where is the UN in all this?
Huh. Forget I said anything. What else?
Bosnia, that's another good one. Yep, we are in Bosnia in a peacekeeping mission still.
Yeah. So, what else? American imperialism and our protection of oil interests in the Middle East are destabilizing the region and allowing people like ISIS to gain power. What destabilized the region? The Arab Spring.
Yes.
Egypt was a cornerstone in the Middle East peace. They kind of kept things from jumping off in Israel. They were kind of a force, and yes, there was a dictatorship, but the Middle East was more stable than it is today. So was it our imperialism that destabilized that?
No.
No.
It was this weird and bizarre thing that we have to tell other countries.
It was the Arab Spring
Yes.
and this administration's support for that Arab Spring and support for groups that opposed these governments that were so horrible but actually kept the region stable.
Right.
So let's put the blame where it goes.
Right, and even you could even argue to a point
I'm not even college Harvard educated.
No, you aren't. You can even argue that Assad, as much as a monster as he is, kept his country stable. You look at Saudi Arabia rules with an iron fist. Right, wrong, or indifferent, their country is more stable. There's a bunch of different examples. But to blame us for the threat to world peace, you look at prime example.
A bigger threat.
A bigger threat. Look at World War II is a great example of what happens when we don't get involved fast enough. And listen, I hate sometimes that we're getting out almost too quick, and we're getting out and getting involved in things that maybe we shouldn't. World War II is an example of we probably waited too long. And we know we waited too long in the Pacific. We probably waited too long in the East because FDR was afraid that he wouldn't get the political backing. And there was anti-war protests, and he had to get things in order, whether you liked FDR or not. He got his political house in order before, and then he, in a way, and I know this sounds horrible, but he got lucky with Japan attacking Pearl Harbor because that swayed American opinion to go, oh yeah, no, now we need to get involved. But there was a lot of people in this country who did not want to get involved in World War II on either coast. They wanted to be isolationists. And listen, if you want to be an isolationist, you're a total isolationist. You can't do a semi-isolationism thing. It doesn't work. You can't pick and choose when you're going to isolate and when you're not. That's just not how things happen.
I have a correction. Campus Reform is a project of the Leadership Institute, and it is a site that acts as the watchdog for the nation's collegiate system or whatever. So it's not a group that's part of Harvard or on Harvard campus. I want to make that correction.
Okay.
Go ahead. I want to make sure I get accurate information to our folks.
And then there's a couple, and you look at our history, again, Sacco? You look at our history and what we've done as a nation. You look at Korea. We thought we didn't go into Korea hard enough. Once we made the decision to go into Korea, we went in soft and we got ourselves in trouble. We didn't because we were starting to get grief about being involved in other people's things, and the politicians were making decisions.
There is an excellent book I just finished, and I read it literally in like 3 days. I read Bill O'Reilly's book, Killing Patton. And it is a fabulous book, and it really gets in depth kind of into the different personalities and who was involved in World War II. And Patton, the type of general he was to really just go in and take care of business versus the type of president or the type of general that Eisenhower was or something. And you really see a shift with the death of Patton from the general that's just, no, let's go get him. Like, Patton wanted to go grab whatever German troops were left and say, hey, you're with us now, and go fight the Russians.
Right,
because he considered them a major threat. Yeah.
Amazingly, he was right.
Yeah, which is weird.
You also look at, and part of the problems that we have now is we have politicians who are dealing with these potential military, and ISIS is a military unit as far as I'm not recognizing them as a uniform military unit, but their tactics,
they do have uniforms and a flag, common flag.
Right.
They have a media department.
They do have a media department. And we have politicians who are deciding when and when not to engage and what's important and when not, and they're not asking the professionals. Look at Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
In Vietnam, the exact same thing happened. Johnson started making the decisions versus the generals and really took a hit. Our guys took a hit. That was insane. That was the beginning of the insane rules of engagement. Why? Public opinion. There were all the protests over here. People were starting to spit on our soldiers coming home, and they really, really wanted everything to feel good and just, no, we're just a helper. And it masked a lot of what needed to be done, which caused us to do covert things that ended up turning out horribly.
Look, it's war,
right.
And it's sad. But if you're going to engage in a war, you have to fight that war to win in order to save American lives.
Absolutely.
And if the enemy puts their civilian population in a position that's dangerous to them, that is on them, not us. And I'm not saying we go in and try and target civilian populations, but if our enemy is hiding in mosques, schools, whatever it is, we have to kill that enemy to save American lives. Something else came out today that really pissed me off even more after I read after I heard that whole Harvard video. And there was a threat that came in today to 3 cities in Rhode Island, Warwick, Cranston, and Johnston. And an anonymous letter came in to the Johnston, Rhode Island Police Department that warned that students in schools in Warwick, Cranston, and Johnston, those 3 cities, that there was a beheading that is planned to take place.
A threat of a beheading in a public school system.
Not for 3 cities.
3 cities.
And there's not a lot of information out there right now. But basically, Johnston Police Department received this anonymous threat. It came in by mail. Parents are trying to keep their kids home. And there was a Lieutenant Matthew Moynihan, I can't even pronounce it, a state police officer working for Cranston Police, said they have not determined the threat is valid, yet they are going to put additional police officers in the schools. And the source of this report was foxnews.com, and it came across my phone earlier in the day just kind of as a flash, and I had difficulty finding. I'm glad I bookmarked it because I had difficulty actually finding the article as I was prepping tonight's show topics. And so we actually made a call. We actually called back east today in order to attempt to get more information on the story. We called Warwick Police Department first, spoke with the watch commander, Captain Furtado, and he confirmed that it was in fact an anonymous letter that was sent to Johnston Police Department specifically. The threat was for schools encompassing the 3 cities we previously mentioned. He also confirmed, and this was not in the article that I've seen, but he confirmed that Johnston Police Department is the lead investigatory agency for this investigation, and he recommended contact them for additional comment. We did contact Johnston Police Department. We spoke with Officer of the Day, Officer Petteruti, who was very nice, but he was not answering anything. He is referring all media inquiries to their deputy chief, and he said, our deputy chief's out for the night. I said, well, that's kind of a big deal story. You guys want to have anybody to take media inquiries? And he was like, nope, deputy chief, he's not here.
See you in the morning, folks.
Yeah, real uncomfortable. But we were able to confirm at least that Johnston Police Department is the lead investigating agency here. Hadn't seen that before. So stand by. We may try and I think Jason.
Yeah, I'm going to see if Jason can do some follow-up on this through the course of the week.
Follow-up on that.
And, you know,
But this is why. So ISIS is America is a bigger threat to. Yet we're having now threats, and we know beheadings have happened. It happened in Oklahoma, right? And when there was an armed citizen that got involved, we talked about it last week. And now we have threats to our school children, and this is not out of bounds or out of the playbook for ISIS or ISIL.
All.
No, they ordered lone wolf attacks here in the United States.
Yeah.
So that this is why reading this report and having kids in school, this made me that Harvard story made me so angry.
Well, and they also, you know, ISIS also likes to taunt us. And you look at the video the FBI has on their website right now where they're looking for the potential American ISIS member that murdered all the Syrians in a recruitment video. It's possible for them to be over here. And listen, I'm not ready to rule out the fact that maybe there's some high school kid that just wanted to cause problems. That's always a possibility with stuff like this. It happened a lot after 9/11.
But here's the problem. Even if that's the case...
Oh, it needs to be dealt with.
It needs to be dealt with. But this is taken so seriously because ISIS is so dangerous.
And you need to take it seriously.
So even if this is a joke, the fact that ISIS is dangerous enough and batshit crazy enough to where this could be legitimate, that's a problem.
It's a huge
Whether
problem.
it's a hoax or not, the fact that a group is crazy enough to do that, so even if a hoax comes in, we're like, yeah, we got to do something, folks.
Yeah. No, and you know, I can't imagine if I was a parent in that school district. What do? Do you actually let your kids go to school? I don't think I could.
I wouldn't.
Only because you've seen the active threats that have happened here.
And so Colonel McCarthy did make a statement relating to that. According to the Fox News article, McCarthy says that schools may be the safest place to be. Well, here's my problem with that. How many children are in that school? How many officers do you have protecting that school? And these are questions I don't know the answer to. And I didn't want to ask these questions because I don't want them to give up any kind of operational information.
Right,
I don't think they would anyways.
Them.
But I just don't want that out of there, right? But how many officers do you have?
Right.
Do you have officers that know how to work together and use small unit tactics to counter anything that the terrorists may throw? I don't know.
Yeah. Listen.
So my kid would be safer at home because I know what I have there.
Right.
I know how to control the entry points to my particular abode, right? And they're not going to target my children there. They're going to target the schools where there are more of them.
Yeah. No, and listen,
I think that's just an irresponsible statement that this colonel made.
Well, and you look at it, too. Obviously, they're going to do whatever they can. If there is going to be an attack, they will take whatever opportunity they can. And you know what? Maybe part of the other thing that we have to worry about now, folks, with all of this stuff that happens is dry runs and response. Is there something to see what the response is going to be? Is there something to feel it out? And then they'll check the response, wait a few months, and maybe show up and do something different, an active shooter incident or something like that, or a bomb, right? Jersey Joe in the chat room just linked that there is a huge increase in bomb threats right now in the country because of what's going on.
I wonder what that is.
I wonder why. So we need to take all this seriously. Part of the problem that we have in this country right now, and especially when it comes to ISIS and terrorism, is the average American citizen does not view it as a direct threat. They think Papa Government is going to protect...
Did you say Papa Government?
Yeah. Papa.
Interesting. Comrade.
Exactly. But they think Papa Government is going to protect the baby mama land. And that, yeah. And and they have all this trust in people who were calling ISIS a JV squad less than 3 months ago. So we need to really start.
Wow, seems like they may actually be playing for the pros. We thought we were playing Cranston High School. Turns out we're playing Seattle Seahawks. I mean,
right. But we as a nation need to start identifying the fact that, hey,
we have identified.
No. We have, but the average person needs to be more aware of what could be going on.
I think the average person knows, but this administration is just impotent when they deal with this. They may be impotent other ways also, too, and that's unconfirmed.
Right.
But they may, in fact,
But
be
I
impotent.
have heard that Viagra sales have gone up in the White House. Now, that's unconfirmed, too. I haven't seen all the reports on that. But they are having quite a rookie year. Egg in the chat room talking about ISIS.
Yeah.
But, we really need to start focusing as a nation, as a people, and stop expecting the government to do everything for us.
This is why we propose.
Go ahead. I want you to lead this.
Legislation.
We do propose legislation. And we may actually try to get this as a proposition. Just feel us out on this and listen to us and see if you would get on board. I want you to intro this. This was a majority of your brainstorming.
So, what did we name this?
Proposition 2.1.
Proposition 2A.1.
2A.1.
It is legislation. Is this the one that requires everybody to purchase and own and possess a firearm?
No, this is the one that your voter registration essentially decides whether or not you can possess a weapon.
So understanding the fact that, and we talked how, hey, listen, everybody should be carrying a weapon with them, particularly with these wingnuts on the loose in our streets, because are they more than likely going to attack a group of citizens who they think, oh, there's probably a lot of people that have guns, or not?
Every blade of grass.
So we propose legislation that would say, because people can, in fact, voluntarily give up their rights.
Right.
You can waive your Fifth Amendment right.
Right.
You can waive your right to counsel. You can waive
a lot.
your right to carry a firearm.
Right.
Right. You can opt not to do that. And
right.
That's fine. I have no problem with that. So if you vote for candidates that are anti-gun,
essentially,
or that are going to vote to restrict the rights of others, then you are prohibited from owning a firearm.
Right.
Because you are knowingly, it's basically just a written way of waiving your rights.
Absolutely.
Right? It's your voting record. Right.
It's a willing.
Yeah, a musket counts.
Waving.
Listen, you don't get to carry. You don't get to carry any firearm if you vote for
you're a Democrat,
anti-gun.
If you're a
candidate.
liberal anti-gun candidate, if you are anyone who spouts out against any sort of gun control or for gun control, rather,
you'll like this idea.
You'll support this. It's that many people
that can't
without
guns
firearms.
Now. Right.
That's right. That many more. Now, real quick.
It does cover armed bodyguards. That's 2A.1B, parenthetical B.
Yes, B, C. Now,
B for bodyguards.
The other thing that I will volunteer right now, because I am a person that likes to make sure that government runs smooth and people's lives are easier, I volunteer, if you send me a list, if you're a Democrat, registered voter, and you have firearms, and we pass this, just forward me the list of guns that you have, and I would be more than willing to pay for the exchange fees to get them out of your name and into mine. I'm good.
Right, that's good. And I like the idea that Ag has. If you vote with a picture ID, you get a free AR-15 with 300 rounds. Now, I would say because of the ammunition shortage that maybe you just get, in a free AR, that could get kind of expensive.
Right.
But I would say you get a box of ammunition of your choice or caliber, first come, first serve.
High fives. And high fives.
And high fives.
I'm telling you, I'm thinking we can get this on the ballot. Think about how many anti-gun groups would have to support this.
They would have to
support this.
Right.
It meets their agenda so much.
What would they say? I don't even know what the argument against this would be.
There's no argument against it. It's falling right into their liberal dream. Hey, we're taking care of gun control for you right here on the SHR Media Group, folks. If you are a registered Democrat, the Democratic Party, by virtue now, is anti-gun.
For the most part.
For the most part.
So,
and contrary to the fact that you see people like Gabby Giffords with pictures of an AR-15 because she was shooting, or it doesn't matter who it is. The simple fact of the matter is if you support that, you should, A, turn in your guns immediately just because that means you're not a principled person, because you're one of those people. Funny, I kind of wrote...
look, you get what you vote for, right?
I kind of wrote an article about this on shrmedia.com this week called CNN, You Gloriously Hypocritical Bastards.
Yeah.
Again, I need to have guns because I'm important and I need to protect myself, but the average Joe Schmo doesn't deserve that right. Because they're just, you don't
really understand.
You're not responsible.
You don't really
you're
understand.
Flimsy with it.
You
You don't know what you're doing.
You're going to hurt somebody.
Right, you're going to hurt somebody. I would never hurt anybody.
Right, I know how to use it.
I would never hurt anyone. But yeah, so it's kind of funny to me.
It is. But so that's our thing. And again, it came along the lines of, hey, if everybody should own a firearm because it's a national security issue. Real quick, I know we're coming up against a break in a couple minutes here. But the White House, Obama had some high-level meetings today. He convened. He convened his National Security Council, which is weird. I didn't know he knew how to do that. He must have had somebody get the phone numbers for them. And
he wandered into the wrong room. He was looking for a place to smoke a cigarette.
Right. What's going on here? National Security Council, Mr. President. We have some things to talk about. Shit. I mean, yeah. I'll be right.
Michelle, I'll be right back for a second. I just got to go into this special. Oh, damn, they're in here now.
So he wants to discuss efforts to rebuild Iraq's military.
We've already done that.
No.
We left that in their hands. We left that in his hands.
Well, we have to rebuild that now, okay?
But we did the last time.
No. We
got carjacked, essentially, for all of our armored vehicle.
And ISIS is driving them
now, ISIS is driving them with spinners and hydraulics or something.
Right. So, yeah, we're still doing the airstrikes. I'm wondering, look at this. A lot of this stuff's happening right at the Turkish border. And Turkey's not really doing a whole lot.
And now they're going to do even less after what Joe said about them earlier this week. But
he's right.
Right. I'm not saying he's all wrong.
Right? Like, Joe is actually right on this one.
Well, yeah. It's an opinion, and I don't necessarily think it's right. But
he calls it.
Right.
Look, you know what? Here's why I like Joe Biden. I'm not saying I'd vote for him because of the views he has, but here's why I like Joe Biden. Because he tells it how it is.
No, he doesn't.
Like, if you're a shitbag, pardon my French, if you're a dirtbag, he's going to say you're a dirtbag.
He tells it what the voices in his head talk about.
Which basically says what he sees, right?
So
There's no filter.
But you never know which Joe shows up. You may have the Joe that had, like, a lucid moment, and he was like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should have done more about ISIS, and those countries around there should have done more. Or you get have you ever been to a Dunkin' Donuts and not seen it worked by an Arab? Well, I mean, you just don't know which Joe shows up.
Right.
Biden is...
He says
Biden is like a roulette wheel of BS.
But you know what? No, it's not BS, because you know that's really what he thinks.
Right.
And I want a politician that I actually know what they think. I may disagree with him, but I know what he thinks, right? Like, he thinks all Dunkin' Donuts are owned by Arabs.
He should get Secret Service Agent of the Year. He really should. The best protection on the planet for any president. They should just keep him in that spot, no matter who comes up next, just to keep him safe.
Speaking of coming up next, we're up against a break, and when we come back.
Segue.
Did you like that?
Yeah, it was nice.
Pretty much nailed that. We're going to be talking about Leon Panetta was on the O'Reilly Factor. O'Reilly had an excellent interview with him. I thought it was very interesting. So when we come back, we're going to talk about Leon Panetta's interview on O'Reilly.
Back in 3 here on the Sack Kids Radio Show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in a separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Here's radio.
And welcome back here to the Sackheads Radio Show. I just want to remind you that starting this week, you're going to be getting an economic update here on the SHR Media Network from Windrock Wealth. Go to windrockwealth.com to meet our good friends over there. They'll be providing you some amazing market insight, some economical insight, and just better way to spend your money. And they're really good people. Tell Chris Casey and all the good people over there that you said hi from the Sackheads Radio Show, and we look forward to that. That will be available this week. Don't forget, Saturday night coming up, we do have the return of Outcry Radio. The Rooster will crow at night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. Followed by Sunday, I believe at the exact same time. It might be 5:30 Pacific and 8:30 on the East Coast. You will have the Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe. So we're looking forward to that as well. And November 4th, mark it in your calendars now, folks.
Or steve it in your calendars.
Steam it, spray paint it on the wall. I don't care what you do. November 4, here on the SHR Media Network, along with Pundit Press, we will be doing an all-day election coverage. We're pulling everyone out, all the stops. We're going to be here. Dan Butcher, Jason Miller, just you name it. Everyone's going to be here. Ken.
The exceptional conservative.
The exceptional
Rooster.
one himself. Rooster will be on board.
Sackhead Clint.
We're actually going to see how long Sacco can sit on the soundboard before he just turns into a pile.
That's not true. We have a rotation already worked out.
But we're going to have a bunch of people. More people are going to be announced as contributors for that day. So please plan on sticking here for the 4th of November and getting all your election results through the SHR Media Network.
We're going to be here from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific, so it's going to be huge.
Tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m., Islam Exposed. That's on Blog Talk Radio with Kel, Tim Burton, and Agador. Don't forget to check them out. Tomorrow at 5 p.m., you're also going to have the Evan Miller Report, Jason, and all that good stuff. So don't forget. And, of course, the exceptional one himself at 6 p.m. Pacific here on the SHR Media Network. Moving right along, Panetta on O'Reilly.
Panetta.
Sorry, that was just a really weird thought that went through my head.
Why would you think that? Why would you say Panetta on O'Reilly and think that? think something in your head that would make you have to shiver like that and turn pale and get goosebumps and then giggle like a schoolgirl.
Yes, Egg, I said Panetta. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out, because I don't get enough of that around here. Sacco, that's why I love you. You're the only one that doesn't poke fun at me about my accent.
Don't kiss his butt right now.
I'm serious. He's the only one.
He just does it behind your back.
Oh. Well, that's...
You walk out of the room and he's like, what did he say in that segment? I got to know what to type later before we put this up.
Oh, man. Jersey Joe sent me a message talking about Election Day. He said, hey, I can help that day if you need to. And I was like, yeah, I already had you penciled in. And he started laughing. I said, you're a contributor now, son. This is mandatory if you want to get your card.
Right.
Oh, man.
You going to talk about Panetta or what?
Yeah. So he was talking about his new book that's coming out called
Obama Sucks.
Leon,
I think, is that the title of it?
Leon Panetta
is awesome and Obama is not so
and
good.
the happy chair. I don't know.
Is
what
that
it
something
was
like
called.
that?
Something.
Okay.
But, coming from Panetta, I was shocked at how scathing this book is of the presidency. I did not really think...
Is Rooster somewhere in the chat room that I'm not seeing come up in the chat roll? Did Rooster go silent on us? Is he ninja right now? Is he submarine? Like, what is? I don't mean submarine like he's full of semen. I mean like he's.
He was Peckerhead in the chat room tonight. Think about it, Rooster, Peckerhead.
Got it.
Egg. Actually, that might be the right name for it. It's Leon Panetta. It's money time. But really, I was shocked at. I figured when I heard this book was coming out, I figured it was going to be completely just Obama propaganda, to be honest, and him defending himself, against his operation in Benghazi and a couple other things, and it actually showed some amazing criticisms of the president. First of all, the whole conversation about ISIS and the president blaming Clapper, and
he invented that light thing, right?
Yeah. Yes, that was before.
Or is that a nickname from his college days?
The Clapper.
I don't know. We're gonna have to look into this.
It was quickly changed to thank God for
penicillin. Okay, moving on.
And he kind of admitted that the president was wrong for blaming Clapper, and that the information was known. And given, and we've talked about this before, the president doesn't go to any intelligence briefings. So, ISIS was
because
really...
he has as much intelligence as he needs.
Right.
He's intelligent enough for everybody.
One of the things that I was glad he hit him on, and listen, I don't always agree with O'Reilly. I thought when he had the president, I didn't think he hit enough on him. But I think one of the things that he did a good job of is he put Panetta on record about the Pakistani doctor that helped us get bin Laden. And this was something where this guy is in prison. He was the doctor, and if you watch anything about the bin Laden killing, he was the doctor that infiltrated wearing a camera so they could see the inside of the compound and get visual confirmation. Whether you like him or not like him or whatever, he risked his neck to get rid of the most wanted terrorist in the world and did so. He got the information. And then the Pakistanis put him in prison. And we've done nothing, just like with Tumaresi, so it shouldn't be shocking because one of our own Marines is imprisoned wrongly. In Mexico, we don't do a lot, but we've done nothing to really try to get him back, and we're still giving money to Pakistan. And so, to me, I was glad, and Panetta kind of agreed. He wasn't happy to agree with it, but he did agree that it was wrong. And he did so in a very politician-like way, but he did so. So that was one that I was kind of glad that he hit. The other one I was glad that he hit on was Russian foreign policy. And Putin said, Panetta said, Putin only understands force. You have to deal with him with force.
He got that from us, though.
He did get that from us. He was definitely listening to us for a while. And I think part of the reason that Panetta is out, and if you listen to the interview, is because I think he kind of got sick of saying, hey, you know what, you need to do this. And he was right about a lot of things, whether you like Panetta or you don't like Panetta. He was right about a lot of things. How to deal with Putin. He wanted to talk about putting the missile shield back up and really cranking up the pressure on Putin. He did kind of admit that he was caught off guard, the president was, with the Ukraine invasion by Russia, and that wasn't Russian separatists or Ukrainian separatists. It was Russia's people. So that was kind of a good one he got onto him about, too. I was kind of happy to see that. Let's see. There's some other ones. He talked about Obama's, intestinal fortitude, if you will. And Panetta essentially said that Obama has the smarts to do the right thing, but sometimes he lacks the conviction. And that's one of those things that is frightening to me.
That's a leadership.
That's total leadership.
That's a leadership
101.
issue.
When you don't have conviction to carry out what you know to be right, that's a problem.
And one of the things he said is, he said, quoting, I think the president did support providing that 10,000 troop presence in Iraq and supported CIA operations, supported the diplomatic operations that we wanted to continue. The real issue was how hard did he fight to make it happen? That's the issue I raised, and that's Panetta speaking. And that's leadership right there. How hard did he fight to make it? He's the president of the United States.
Right.
You can't tell me that you can't fight to make happen what you need to happen, particularly when it comes to a country we literally just liberated.
Yeah.
And we're in the process of rebuilding or assisting them,
Well, it shows what we've been talking about for a long time. He doesn't have follow-through. And it can be political, he doesn't want to have follow-through, or inability to follow through. But either way, he's not following through. The other big one that came up was the talk about Benghazi. And Panetta said that when Benghazi first started, he went to the White House, and he had testified to this before, and informed the president that there was an attack on the consulate in Benghazi and that it was terror involved. He said the word terror, which we know we came out and when Obama was on O'Reilly, he kind of said, oh, well, they said an attack, but we couldn't really give terror, blah, 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 blah. But he made that notification to the president about the Benghazi being a terror attack. He also said, and I give him credit for this, because he could have taken a much more political sidestep of the question. When O'Reilly asked him if he believed the 3 CIA contractors who put out the book now, and they're being told to stand down in their whole story, he said he had no reason to doubt their story. And he could have said, well, listen, all the facts aren't out, or we're pending the investigation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He was and it's one of two things.
Yeah, and Obama put it right, or O'Reilly put it right to him, too.
Right.
He said, are they lying?
Right. And he said, I have no reason to doubt their version of the story. So that tells you that he knows. Don't tell me he doesn't know.
Of course he
knows. So I think that's going to come out that really helps bolster their report of the 30-minute delay. So that was kind of that was good. I like the fact that he got out there. He also admitted that the president doesn't like politics, which it's funny. He is a politician.
I don't know that I agree with that.
Well, right. I don't think the president likes American politics.
Right. I think he just wants to be. I just think he wants to.
Right.
Have it all. Right.
Just that traditional American back and forth argument in politics, that intelligent conversation to maybe fix and solve a problem. He doesn't like that. He likes politics where what he says goes.
Dictatorship.
That's what it's called.
Right. Dictatorship.
That's what it's called. And so he doesn't like American politics, but I thought that was pretty telling. that he would say that. And really, I think you're going to see that Panetta, as things go down the line, may have been pushing the president the right way on a lot of these topics that we're now in trouble with in this country as a whole, not us, and was ignored. There's a reason he resigned. I think that you can disagree with his politics or whatever, but I think Panetta was one of those guys that really wanted the right thing done for the country. Yep. Not necessarily the approach or whatever we can agree with, but I think at the end of the day, I think Panetta is a older style Democrat. I don't think he's as progressive.
Okay. So you don't think he's as liberal?
As liberal. No,
you don't
because
think he's a communist?
I don't necessarily think he's a communist.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but what we're finding out from the former director of the CIA, he's hammering his old boss. And now you put this with the other book that came out.
But he also stands up. He also stands up for a lot of stuff he did, too, in the interview. And one of the things he says is, I want this president to be successful, and I want this country to be successful.
Right.
Okay, so I agree with him. I want this country to be successful. I want this president to be successful at certain things.
Right.
I don't want this president to be successful in other things.
Right. I want the president to be successful with what is actually good for the country if he decides to go down that road at some point. If he all of a sudden is like, hey, you know what? Change of plans because mine wasn't working out. So let's try to actually fix things. Then I would be supportive of this president. We've said that before. We will support this president when we believe he's doing the right thing for our nation. We do want him to be successful for doing the right things to fix our nation, what is broken and what needs to be put back together. Not when he goes on these ridiculous, you want to talk about it's never going to happen. And I know it's not going to happen. All this guy does now is fundraise and blame other people for his shortcomings. He is right now, for a guy that hates politics, all he's doing is politics. He's not doing any leading whatsoever.
Yes. Another thing that Panetta said is that he told the president that he believed the attack was terror on Benghazi. You brought up Benghazi.
Yeah.
And the president, when he was interviewed by O'Reilly pressed him, were you told it was terror? And Obama didn't answer him.
No, he sidestepped. He said, I'm trying to answer you, Bill, because Bill said, was it terror?
Let me answer your question or
I'm
something
trying to
like
give
that.
you the answer. If you just shut up and do what I tell you to do. I know you're Fox News and all, but you're the problem. So I'm not going to give you a straight answer. I'm going to sidestep.
Yeah. And then Panetta said, well, no, we told him it was terror. But he used the talking points from the CIA, so he kind of defended him there, right? But he used the talking points by the CIA, and those weren't drafted by us. They usually defer to the CIA as opposed to us when they're blah, 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 blah. So he went on to try and gloss over it. And that's what I mean by he said some things I think that, they were damning.
Mm-hmm.
But he tried to gloss over some things, too, or soften the blow on other things that maybe he shouldn't have. Does that make sense? And if you get a chance to check out the interview, you can pull it up online. Can you get it off of? I think you can get it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Pull it up. I highly recommend watching it. Maybe 20 minutes or so, right?
I can link it onto our website, and I'll do that right after the show. I'll put it up if you haven't seen it, and so you can watch it, because it is kind of interesting. No, Panetta definitely played politics.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually good at it. You can hear that he's good at it. But I also think that he is on a mission to clear his name from a lot of things that were done wrong.
He is, but the Obama administration they're giving it back to him.
Right.
A little bit, right? Like Joe Biden called Panetta inappropriate.
Well, and here's...
Really?
Pot in the kettle.
Yeah, if you're Joe Biden...
What is inappropriate?
I'm pretty sure...
What did Panetta run through the White House with like a rubber mask on and a full-on S&M bodysuit?
Like Joe would think that's inappropriate, though, right? He'd be like, I'm freaking drunk, too. I mean,
you think Joe would like, what do you look at this, like a contest?
Yeah, he'd be like, where's the broad?
What Joe
I can do better than that.
What Joe actually said was, if somebody thought that was inappropriate, I can be more inappropriate.
Yeah, watch this.
Quick, let me say something like bitch at Harvard.
Right.
How could Joe Biden say anything is inappropriate?
I bet Joe Biden. Do you remember the game? Did you ever play the game where you'd sit in class in school and somebody, usually a boy, would say the word penis?
Yes.
Penis. And then somebody else would have to say it louder.
Right.
And louder, and you go until the teacher hears or says something or somebody gets in trouble. Joe Biden would play that game.
By himself. In a room full of nuns.
Right, at the UN. I dare Joe Biden to play that game by himself at the next school he goes to.
Now, kids, sit down because the vice president's going to read to you. Hey, how you doing there, kids? Penis. All right, so what is this? The sleepy dog. Perfect. Penis. Let's see. Once upon a time, there was a penis, sleepy dog, and a penis! Mr. Vice President, you can't say penis. I didn't say it. That wasn't me.
I got caught. Fuck it. I got caught.
Wow, kids, this broad's really tough on you guys, huh?
Hey, kids, that's a good game you can play when I leave. Don't tell her I told you anything, know what I mean?
Yeah, apparently you don't want to piss this broad off because she's really kind of a ball buster. Anyhow. The vice president's going to read you 50 Shades of Grey. I think Ag just got comment of the night right there. That is awesome.
Well, we're a little off topic.
So the last thing Panetta said is, and this is where he went back to defending essentially the Legion because he knows she's going to run.
The American Legion?
No, the Legion of...
the Legionnaires of Rome?
The Legionnaires, yes. The Democrats, and more specifically Clinton. And this is how you know he still has his politics about him. When O'Reilly asked about Hillary and the protection at the consulate and how dangerous it was, and we've talked about that a bunch of times. Did he just quote? Ag quoted airplane in the chat room. That's awesome. Sorry. Hillary Panetta said.
Focus.
Sorry, no, I'm just going down now.
You're not allowed to look at the chat room while you're talking on your story.
Panetta said Hillary must not have known how unsafe it was because she's the type of person that would fix it, essentially. So,
of course he's going to say that.
Right. I don't know if he's looking for a job with Hill.
Of course. The phone rang. She didn't pick up.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, no, she was a 3 a.m. phone call. She got it, didn't answer.
Right. She thought it was a text message.
She probably thought
the ringer was off.
She thought it was Monica for Bill again. She was like, Bill, phone's ringing. It's for you again. I can't wait to get out of this marriage. But I need you because I want to run for president someday.
Right.
He knows what's coming down the line. We all know that Hillary's going to run. We all know that shows you that maybe not everything he said can be 100% trusted because he's obviously still playing politics.
And he used to be a spy. I mean, come on.
And he used to be a spy. Absolutely. And his name is so close to Panchetta that I
which is like pant shedder.
Right, which is like pant shedder.
So you really have to be careful.
Oh, man. I love the fact that now that all the airplane quotes are starting to go up in the chat room. Folks, if you listen to our show and you're not in the chat room and you're there live, you're missing so much great stuff that comes out of there. Thank you guys in the chat room so much. You really make this show so much more fun. And I think you guys play a game that we don't know about, that you try to get us to break topic with some of your comments, and you guys do a good job.
It's practically a conspiracy.
It is practically a conspiracy. There is no doubt about it.
Did you hear about the Louisiana teachers that got in trouble? This one teacher got in trouble for posting an anti-Common Core comment up on her personal Facebook.
No.
Yeah.
Did you hear? And I forget where the teachers were from. There was 2 female teachers somewhere that got in trouble. And folks, I don't know if it's just the fact that news is more readily available or what, but are we on a metronome?
Is that a time bomb?
What is
ticking in my ear
clicking
right now?
What's his name? Oh, Ag just.
Which one?
Oh man,
Joe Biden.
No,
Obama.
Airplane, the movie, not Peter Graves. Leslie Nielsen. That's who he's thinking of. He could have played the part of Leslie Nielsen.
Oh my gosh! Now they're quoting.
Hey, Farva.
Yes. Now they're quoting Super Troopers.
What's that restaurant you like with all the goofy shit in the wall and mozzarella sticks?
Shenanigans. Oh. This is going downhill. We have 4 minutes left.
Sorry.
Let's just call it.
No.
Let's call it.
No.
I'm out.
No, I'm not calling it. But I want to know what's going on with teachers lately, because there was another story that came out this week of 2 female teachers that hooked up at the same time with a 16-year-old boy.
Sacco just said if he was 16, he would say that.
He wouldn't say that.
Sacco would not say that.
He wouldn't
you gotta
tell
know
anyone
Sacco.
it happened. He wouldn't say.
Yeah.
What 16-year-old boy admits to this? The only way that is possible.
The one who wants street cred.
Exactly.
Right?
He was bragging.
Yes.
Loose lips sink ships, son.
Now, whoa, was that a reference to the teachers or to the student? It's a legitimate question.
No, it's scary to me, and all joking aside, and I know we made that joke, whatever. All joking aside, it's scary to me because it's happening on both sides more and more. You're starting to really see teachers.
The part with both teachers happen on both sides?
Yes.
I don't even know where you're going with this right now, because that's dirty.
You're starting to see more and more teachers, male and female, crossing the line with their students.
Right.
Huh? And
Focus, boys.
And it really scares me. And we talked about this earlier. You hear about these incidents that happen with these teachers, and you go through all the school and everything.
And you think, why didn't that happen to me when I was a kid?
What was wrong with me?
Right?
Was I ugly?
Right.
Was I not putting the right vibe out?
Yeah.
How did this go south?
Because I sure as hell wouldn't have said anything.
But you're going to start thinking at some point they have to start looking at the background checks with students. And I mentioned this earlier. You look at some insane backgrounds that some people in certain lines of work have to do. And teachers aren't really one of them. I know in California, your background check consists of getting what's called a live scan, where they run your fingerprints. They run a few systems, nothing invasive, really.
Right.
Because the unions won't allow it.
Right. And an STD check, just in case.
That's what they should have. But this is a place where you're sending your children for 7 hours a day, sometimes on field trips, you with the sporting events, whatever, you with these teachers. And why aren't they doing these enhanced background checks? If you've ever known anyone that wanted a federal government job, a state job, depending on what it is, they do background checks as invasive as they go to your house, they talk to your neighbors, they talk to former neighbors, teachers, et cetera, to find out the type of person you are. Maybe you haven't been caught yet. And that's something that I really think that we need to start looking at in this country is enhanced background checks. These teachers are with your students or your children all day long, and there is an inherent risk. And I can tell you right now, you can't get a gun without an enhanced background check in the state of California, but you can sure as hell have a group of 10-year-olds and maybe never been convicted of something and do whatever you want. And that's definitely
lie on your application.
Or lie on your application, right? There's no lie
so
detector, there's no polygraph,
right?
Nothing. So it's definitely it's definitely time to start looking at some changes in that, in my opinion. And kids need to just shut up. No, I'm just kidding.
And sit in the corner.
Or
put a gag ball.
Speaking of sitting in the corner, it's
Sacco,
time for us
thank
to
you very much.
Sacco, thank you so much for your hard work this evening. We appreciate it.
As always.
Huh?
He needs a microphone.
We got to get him one back.
He controls our mics, so we have to control his.
Can we do that?
We need a microphone for Sacco, and we get to control his mic.
Yeah. Can we do that? Like you get to control ours? No? Okay. Why?
Hang on. Vote.
Vote.
2/3. You
lose. Like we'd have any idea to do it.
I know.
Thank you, folks, so much for joining us.
That's a Mr. Microphone. Isn't that what you need?
That's a Mr. Microphone. We'll be back next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Make sure you check out the Evan Miller Report all this week at 5 p.m. Pacific. Also check out the Exceptional One himself at 6 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you check out Ag and Kel tomorrow on Islam Exposed on BTR. I believe it's 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Saturday night, the return of the Rooster. 5 Pacific. Sorry, 6 East. No, 6 Pacific, 9 East. I got his text message all wrong. And Jersey Joe will be back Sunday with his show at 5:30 Pacific. You guys have to straighten all this out. I can't keep this all straight in my head. Check the schedule. We're going to be putting
a dry erase board.
I know.
I opted to use it for other things.
I had to. I
have my dry erase board, and everything is straight.
Oh, Lord. Thank you so much for everyone who listened this evening. Thank you for all in the chat room. We will see you next Wednesday, November 4th. Put it in your calendars right now. Be with us for election night coverage, so we'll have our awesome election night coverage.
Thanks, Ken. Ken reads us out every week.
I know. Ken sticks around.
He does. Thank you, Ken. I'm hungry. I need some French fries.
And we're working on immigration.
And a shot at Jack Daniels. Not the guy on the corner. Because that'd be weird.
For those who are tuning in,
I want French fries.
around the world to the best late night.
Ooh.
Tackheads Radio.
French fries? Frosties.
Frosty.
Frosties. Frosty. 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 Frosty.
Are we still live?
Frosty. Chocolate Frosty.
Ooh,
Why?
like
Because somebody
Frosties.
said goodnight, Ken?
Oh!